welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. Before we begin, take a moment to find a comfortable position. Let your shoulders drop, let your breathing slow, and allow the day to gently fade away. Tonight, we will step back into another time, another place, a story woven from history, myth, and memory, a world long past, yet still alive in the echoes of our imagination. As the story unfolds, let the words guide you like a gentle current, carrying you deeper into calm and deeper into rest. So, settle in, and let us begin our journey. The night air is still, warm and heavy with the faint fragrance of reeds. Somewhere in the distance, a water bird lets out a low call, and the gentle rustle of papyrus stalks sways with the river's breath. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the horizon begins to lighten. The Nile, the eternal river. It has flowed for thousands of years, long before the great pyramids were built, and long before the pharaohs walked the earth. To the people of Egypt, it is more than water. It is life itself. And as the first streaks of dawn creep across the sky, the river begins to stir. Imagine yourself sitting at the edge of the riverbank. The soil beneath you is dark, rich, fertile, the gift the Nile leaves behind after every flood. Farmers will soon come to this soil to plant barley and wheat, to feed their families and their gods. But for now, in this early hour, it belongs only to you and the quiet flow of the water. The sky deepens into a pale blue, the stars slowly fading, leaving only the faint glow of Venus lingering above the horizon. A soft mist rises from the river's surface, curling in ribbons over the still water. Somewhere close by, you hear the creak of wooden oars. A fisherman is setting out in his narrow boat, pushing away from the shore. The boat drifts silently at first, then the steady rhythm of his paddle dips into the water, ripples widening with each stroke. Listen closely. You can almost hear the quiet splash, the soft drip of water falling back from the paddle, the hushed whispers of reeds brushing against the side of the boat. His catch will be humble, perhaps a few tilapia or catfish, but for his family, it will be enough. As the first edge of the sun peaks above the horizon, the colors of the land awaken. The desert sand, cool and gray in the moonlight, warms into soft gold. The river reflects the growing light, glinting like a sheet of copper. Across the water, a group of ibises stretch their wings, their long necks arching gracefully as they take to the air. Slowly, life along the banks of the Nile begins to stir. Farmers emerge from their homes, small huts of mud brick, with thatched roofs and doors of woven reeds. They step out barefoot, carrying clay jars for water, or simple baskets woven from palm fronds. Their day begins with gratitude for each. Sunrise is a gift of life from the gods. In the fields nearby, you see the dark, glistening channels where irrigation ditches have carried the river's water. The soil smells fresh and alive. A farmer bends low, scooping water with a wooden shadoof, a simple lever made from a pole and a counterweight stone. Slowly, methodically, he lifts the bucket of water, tips it into the channel, then lowers the pole again. Up and down, up and down. The rhythm matches the heartbeat of the land itself. Children run ahead of him, their laughter soft and distant, carrying small bundles of seedlings to be pressed into the soil. Their voices echo faintly across the fields, but never break the calm. They are like the morning birdsong, part of the awakening of the land, and all the while the Nile flows on, smooth, constant, patient. From far to the south, in the lands beyond Nubia, it winds its way through the desert, carrying with it not just water, but the silt, the life, the very possibility of Egypt itself. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth spreads across the earth. The fishermen pull in their nets, glistening with silver scales. A farmer kneels to smooth the soil over his crops. A woman leans down to the river, filling a jar that she will carry back atop her head. The sound of their movements blends into a harmony, the swish of water, the shuffle of feet on dirt, the low murmur of voices. This is dawn on the Nile, and it has been so for thousands of years. The river, eternal and calm, holds their lives within its flow, and as you watch, you too become part of this quiet rhythm. The warmth of the sun touches your face. The breeze of the river brushes against your skin. The world is awakening, gently, peacefully, endlessly. The sun has now risen above the horizon, bathing the Nile Valley in soft gold. The mist that clung to the river has lifted, and the day stretches out before you. Slowly, you rise from your resting place on the riverbank and begin to follow a narrow path that winds toward a nearby village. The air carries the mingled scents of clay, grain, and the faint sweetness of honey cakes baking on open fires. The village is modest. Its houses built from mud brick, sun-dried and stacked carefully into walls. The homes are low, with flat roofs, where jars, baskets, and bundles of reeds have been left to dry. Each doorway is marked by simple patterns drawn in red ochre charms to invite blessings and protection. As you step onto the main street, the village begins to reveal its quiet life. The road is not paved but beaten earth, smooth beneath countless feet. Chickens scatter across your path, their feathers catching the light as they dart into shaded courtyards. A pair of goats bleat softly from behind a reed fence, tugging lazily at stalks of barley. Ahead, the marketplace is beginning to stir. It is not a grand bazaar filled with riches, but a gathering of neighbors who know one another well. Merchants spread reed mats on the ground, carefully arranging their wares, baskets of figs and dates, small piles of lentils, jars of beer frothing at the mouth of their clay stoppers. The scent of freshly baked bread drifts through the air, rich and warm, inviting. Women move gracefully between the stalls, their linen dresses simple and white, tied with cords of woven fiber. Their hair, dark and braided, glints in the sun, sometimes adorned with a single bead or charm. They carry baskets on their heads, steady and balanced, filled with grain or herbs gathered from the fields. Their voices rise in gentle greetings, exchanged with laughter and ease. At the edge of the market, you find a group of children playing a simple game. They toss pebbles into a circle drawn in the dust, their laughter bubbling over in cheerful bursts. One child claps his hands in triumph, while another rushes to redraw the lines of the game. Their joy is pure and unbroken, the timeless sound of youth. Further along, the work of the village hums steadily. You pass by a scribe seated on a low stool beneath the shade of a fig tree. His palette rests across his knees, a strip of wood holding cakes of red and black ink. With a careful reed brush, he writes on a strip of papyrus, his hands steady, his movements deliberate. His work is slow and quiet, but carries immense weight. Contracts, records, prayers, all captured in his flowing script. Just beyond him, an artisan shapes pottery at a simple wheel. His hands are coated in wet clay, his thumbs pressing gently into the spinning form as it rises from the wheel. The pot takes shape slowly, a vessel meant to carry grain, beer, or perhaps oil for the temple lamps. The rhythm of his work is mesmerizing, the turning of the wheel as steady, as the rivers flow. You pause for a moment at the home of a family preparing for their day. The doorway is shaded by woven mats hung loosely from the beams above. Inside, the coolness of the mud brick walls offers relief from the growing sun. A woman grinds grain on a flat stone, her hands moving in slow, circular motions. The sound of stone against stone is soft, steady, grounding. Beside her, a small fire crackles beneath a clay oven where bread bakes, filling the room with a comforting aroma. Her husband ties sandals from strips of leather, mending the bindings where they have frayed. He works with quiet concentration, his hands rough from the fields, his movements precise. Two children sit nearby, one tracing shapes in the dust with a reed, the other cradling a small clay doll with painted eyes. It is a simple scene, yet filled with warmth, the ordinary beauty of daily life. As you continue, you pass by a carpenter's workshop. Planks of sycamore would lean against the walls, tools laid out neatly on a reed mat. He smooths the surface. Of a stool, the shavings curling away in pale ribbons that scatter across the ground. The faint scent of wood mixes with the earthy smell of clay and dust, blending into the fragrance of the village. Beyond the carpenter, the faint ring of metal on stone reaches your ears. Following the sound, you find a stonemason at work. His chisel strikes a block of limestone with measured taps, each one leaving a precise mark. He pauses often to brush away the dust, tilting his head to study his progress. The stone he carves will soon form part of a wall, a temple, or perhaps a tomb lasting far beyond his lifetime. The patience in his craft is timeless, as if each strike of his chisel is an echo of the generations before him. The street bends gently, leading you toward a courtyard shaded by tall date palms. Their fronds sway lazily, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow across the ground. Here, the villagers gather to share food, to rest, to exchange quiet words. A storyteller sits with a small circle of listeners, his voice low, steady, almost a chant. Though his words drift into the air, they do not intrude. Instead, they blend into the atmosphere. Another layer of the village's quiet harmony. The story he tells is of ancient kings and gods, of Ra's journey across the sky, of Osiris and the gift of the afterlife. His listeners nod gently, familiar with every detail, yet comforted by the retelling. Stories, after all, are the threads that hold the people together, binding past and present in a single weave around you. The village continues its rhythm, soft, measured, eternal. There is no rush, no urgency, only the steady flow of life. Every action, from the grinding of grain to the carving of stone, is part of a greater pattern, one that has repeated itself for centuries and will continue long after this day has passed. As you move once more through the narrow streets, the voices of the villagers drift gently behind you. The marketplace hums, the craftsman's wheel spins, the children laugh in the dust, and all the while the Nile flows nearby, carrying its quiet song through the heart of the land. The sun now rests higher in the sky, spilling a warm light across the village streets. The air carries the faint hum of bees from the date palms, the laughter of children fading into the distance, and the rhythmic sounds of work echoing from within small courtyards and shaded spaces, drawn by the steady murmur of tools. You step through a low doorway and into the coolness of a craftsman's workshop. The air inside is different, cooler, quieter, touched by the earthy fragrance of clay and stone, by the metallic temps of hammered copper, by the faint, sharp scent of heated resin. Your eyes adjust slowly to the dim light. Sunlight filters through narrow slits in the walls, falling in pale beams across the floor. Dust motes dance lazily in the air, stirred gently by the craftsman's movements. The man at work here is an artisan, his posture calm, his gestures deliberate. He sits cross-legged before a low bench, where fragments of stone and shards of metal lie neatly arranged. His tools, simple yet effective, rest at his side. A small chisel, a wooden mallet, a set of bronze scrapers worn smooth from years of use. In his hands a piece of alabaster takes shape, a small jar, delicate and luminous, carved carefully from the soft white stone. The sound of his work is steady and soothing. Tap, pause, tap. Each strike is light, precise, measured, as though he is in conversation with the stone itself. Between taps, he brushes the dust aside, running his fingertips across the surface to feel the progress of his labor. His eyes are focused, yet his expression is serene, as though time itself has slowed to match his pace. Around the room, you notice other works in various stages of completion. Clay vessels line a low shelf, their curves smooth, their surfaces painted with simple patterns of red and black. A row of red baskets leans against the far wall, their fibers woven tightly, their shapes practical and elegant. On another bench, small ornaments of faïences gleam faintly in the light. Tiny beads, amulets shaped like scarabs, figures of protective gods. Each piece, though small, carries meaning and purpose, destined for temple offerings, household shrines, or the adornment of loved ones. The artisan pauses in his work, setting down the alabaster jar. He reaches for a strip of gold leaf, thin and shimmering, so delicate it trembles in the faint current of air. With a brush of resin, he presses the gold against a wooden amulet, the bright surface catching the sunlight for just a moment before settling into its new form. The object is simple, perhaps a charm for protection or a token for trade, but in his hands it becomes something more, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. In one corner of the workshop, a young apprentice works quietly. His task is humble, shaping small clay beads, smoothing them with wet fingers, laying them out to dry in the sun. His brow furrows in concentration, his movements careful, though not yet practiced. From time to time, he glances toward the master, watching, imitating, learning. The rhythm of knowledge passes from one generation to the next, as steady and inevitable as the Nile's flood. A faint breeze stirs through the doorway, carrying with it the muffled sounds of the village. Outside, the call of a merchant, the clatter of hooves as a donkey passes by, the laughter of children playing in the dust. Yet inside the workshop, the world feels suspended. Time slows, sounds soften, and every detail becomes part of a delicate balance. You notice a set of tools resting neatly on a reed mat, chisels, files, brushes, all simple, all worn smooth, from years of careful use. Their wooden handles are darkened from countless hands, their bronze edges sharpened again and again. They are unremarkable to look at, yet they are the quiet heart of creation. With them, the artisan shapes stone into jars, metal into ornaments, clay into vessels, objects that will outlast his own lifetime, carried into tombs, temples, and homes as part of Egypt's eternal rhythm. On another table, half hidden in shadow, lies a block of turquoise. Its surface glimmers faintly, catching hints of green and blue in the light. The stone has come from far away, mined in the Sinai, carried across the desert by traders and caravans. Soon, under the artisans, patient hands, it will be shaped into beads for a necklace, or perhaps inlaid into a ring. Its journey, from the earth to the craftsman's bench, is part of a larger story, one that ties distant lands to this quiet village on the Nile. The apprentice sets down his beads and begins to sweep the floor with a bundle of reeds, gathering the shavings of wood, the dust of stone, the fragments of clay. The sound is soft, steady, almost like the rustle of wind through papyrus reeds. Each motion adds to the calm rhythm of the workshop. Nothing here is hurried, nothing rushed. Even the smallest task carries patience, purpose, and care as you stand. In the cool stillness, you begin to notice the deeper harmony at work. Every strike of the chisel, every brush of the artisan's hand, every breath of the apprentice adds to the music of the space. It is not a song of triumph or urgency, but of balance, a reminder that creation takes time, that beauty is born not in haste but in quiet devotion. You linger for a moment longer, letting the atmosphere settle around you. The artisan continues, his work unhurried, unbothered by your presence, his world complete in the simple act of shaping stone and clay. The apprentice watches, learns, repeats, and beyond these walls, the village carries on, its voice is softened, its movements gentle, all of it woven into the eternal flow of the Nile. When at last you step back into the sunlight, the air feels warmer, brighter. The sounds of the village return, the chatter of neighbors, the clink of pottery, the low call of merchants. Yet you carry with you the quiet of the workshop, the steady rhythm of creation, the patience of hands shaping the world. The path from the village stretches away from the river, winding gently through fields of barley and flax. The sun climbs steadily overhead, warming the air, yet the breeze from the Nile lingers faintly on your skin. Each step carries you further, from the noise of the market and the rhythm of the craftsman's tools, and deeper into the stillness of the desert's edge. Ahead, rising above the horizon, the outlines of colossal walls begin to appear, the gateways of a temple, vast and silent, waiting in the morning light. As you approach, the world seems to widen. The fields give way to open land, the air quieter, the ground firmer beneath your feet. In the distance, palm groves sway gently, their tall fronds casting thin shadows across the sand. The sound of birds fades, replaced by a deep, expectant hush, as though the land itself holds its breath in reverence. Step by step, the temple grows larger. Its pylons, two immense towers of stone, rise before you, carved with images that shimmer faintly in the sunlight. Gods and kings stretch upward in frozen poses, their figures commanding and serene. The walls themselves seem impossibly vast, their sheer height humbling, their surfaces smooth, yet covered with stories etched in stone. Each hieroglyph, each carved figure is a fragment of memory, a prayer, a proclamation, a record of the eternal bond between human and divine. You draw closer, and the details begin to reveal themselves. Colossal statues flank the entrance, their faces calm, unyielding, their gaze fixed far beyond the horizon. Their hands rest upon their knees, their crowns tall, their posture timeless. Though centuries may pass, though winds may wear their edges, they remain guardians of the threshold, keeping watch in silence. The massive wooden doors stand partly open, their bronze studs glinting in the light. Beyond them, a cool shadow beckons. You step across the threshold, leaving the brightness of the morning behind. At once, the temperature drops, the air thick with the faint scent of incense and stone. Your footsteps echo softly against the flagstones, a low rhythm swallowed quickly by the vastness of the whole. Inside, the temple is a forest of columns. They rise like stone trees, their shafts thick, their capitals blossoming into the shapes of papyrus and lotus. Sunlight filters through narrow slits high above, falling in golden beams across the carvings. Dust drifts lazily in the air, turning the shafts of light into shimmering pillars of their own. The scale is immense, and yet the atmosphere is not overwhelming. It is calming, grounding, as though you have stepped into the heart of the earth itself. Along the walls, the stories of Egypt unfold. Pharaohs offer gifts to the gods, their figures poised with grace and strength. Rows of hieroglyphs march in careful order, their signs carrying prayers that have been whispered for thousands of years. Scenes of battles and ceremonies, of festivals, and harvests of gods traveling across the sky in golden boats. All are here, recorded in silent stone. The longer you gaze, the more detail emerges, until the very walls seem alive with memory. In the shadows, a group of priests move quietly. Their linen robes whisper against the floor, their heads shaved smooth, their hands carrying trays of offerings. They walk with deliberate steps, their movements unhurried, as though each gesture carries sacred weight. At an altar, they place jars of wine, loaves of bread, bundles of herbs, and small bowls of milk. A priest lights incense, the smoke curling upward, fragrant and sweet, drifting toward the ceiling. The faint chant of a hymn rises softly, low and melodic, reverberating. In the cool stone chamber, you linger near a column, watching, listening. The chanting is slow, its rhythm steady, its words unfamiliar yet comforting. It is not meant to stir excitement, but to steady the spirit, to align it with the eternal flow of the gods. The sound blends with the crackle of the incense, the faint rustle of linen, the near silence of the space itself. Together, they form a harmony that seems to suspend time. Further within the temple lies the hypostyle hall. Its ceiling high, its darkness deepened. Torches flicker against the walls, there, flames casting long, wavering shadows. The scent of resin fills the air, mingling with the faint coolness of stone. Each step forward is cushioned by silence, as though the very walls absorb sound. Here, the carvings grow finer, more delicate, telling stories not of kings but of the gods themselves, Ra, sailing across the sky in his solar bark. Osiris, lord of the afterlife, seated in majesty. Isis, protective and eternal, spreading her wings across the stone. At the heart of the temple rests the sanctuary. The room is small compared to the halls that lead to it, yet its presence is powerful. Here, a statue of the god resides, hidden from ordinary eyes, tended only by the high priests. The air is heavy, still, filled with reverence. A single flame burns upon an altar, its glow reflecting faintly upon the polished surfaces of stone and gold. This is the axis of the temple, the place where heaven and earth meet, where the prayers of the people rise and the blessings of the gods descend. You do not linger here long. The sanctity is quiet, complete, and you step back into the larger halls with respect. The columns rise again above you, vast and steady, and as you retrace your steps toward the light, the silence folds. Around you like a gentle cloak, emerging from the shadowed halls, the brightness of the sun greets you once more. The pylons loom tall behind you, their carvings glowing faintly in the afternoon light. Before you, the path winds back toward the river, lined now with small shrines and statues. Pilgrims pause to leave offerings, a handful of grain, a flower, a whispered prayer. Some kneel, their heads bowed, while others simply touch the stone and move on. Each gesture is small, yet together they form a tapestry of devotion that stretches across generations. You pause to look back once more at the temple. Its walls stand eternal, its guardians unmoving, its presence vast. Yet within, it is not power that lingers most strongly, but peace, a deep, steady calm, born of stone and prayer and time itself. With this calm in your heart, you turn once more toward the Nile, carrying with you the quiet majesty of the temple's halls. The afternoon sun rests high above the valley, its light gilding the tops of the pylons and the crowns of the palm trees. The air shimmers with heat, yet a soft breeze stirs faintly from the Nile, carrying with it the scent of lotus blossoms and incense. The temple forecourt, once quiet, now hums with quiet anticipation. People begin to gather, their movements slow, deliberate, reverent. Today is no ordinary day. It is the time of procession, when the pharaoh, living embodiment of divine power, makes his sacred journey from the temple to the river. You find a shaded place among the crowd. There is no noise, no clamor. The gathering is hushed, voices low, footsteps soft. The people wait patiently, eyes drawn toward the great doors of the temple, their hearts steady in expectation. The silence deepens until it is broken only by the faint murmur of priests preparing the way. Then, slowly, the great doors swing open. The sound is low and deep, the creak of wood and bronze echoing against the stone walls. Out from the cool shadows emerges the beginning of the procession. First come the musicians. They move in measured steps, their instruments gleaming in the sunlight. Harps strung with taut chords release soft, resonant notes. Flutes of reed carry melodies that drift gently through the air, weaving round the steady beat of drums struck with careful rhythm. The music does not rise in triumph, but flows calmly, like the river itself. Steady and eternal. Behind them walk dancers, their bodies moving in slow, graceful patterns. Their linen garments ripple like water, their arms extend and curve like the wings of birds in flight. Each gesture is measured, balanced, performed with a serenity that draws the eye but soothes the mind. Their anklets chime softly, a faint counterpoint to the low music. Then come the priests, rows of them dressed in spotless white, their heads bowed, their hands carrying offerings, jars of wine, baskets of bread, garlands of flowers, and small figurines of gold and faience glint in the light. The air grows richer with the fragrance of incense, its smoke curling upward, drifting over the procession like a pale veil. Each priest steps carefully, his pace matched to the rhythm of the drums, his eyes steady upon the path ahead. And then, at last, comes the pharaoh. He is borne upon a golden bark, carried high on the shoulders of strong men. The vessel gleams, its sides adorned with scenes of gods and victories, its prow shaped like the head of a falcon, its stern like the curling lotus. Canopies of woven fabric shade the figure seated within. The pharaoh sits tall, his crown gleaming, his robes flowing, his expression serene. He is both man and more than man, the axis between earth and the divine. The people bow as he passes. Some touch the ground with their foreheads, others raise their hands in reverence. Yet the mood is not one of urgency or frenzy. It is calm, measured, filled with the quiet awe that comes not from fear but from respect, from belief in the unbroken order of the world. As the bark moves forward, the music swells gently. The harps sing, the flutes whisper, the drums beat like a distant heart. The dancers step and turn, their movements flowing like the Nile itself. The priests chant softly, their voices low, weaving words of devotion that rise and fall like waves upon the shore. Together, the sounds blend into a harmony that carries the pharaoh along his path. The procession winds through the forecourt, past the towering pylons, and out into the open sun. The crowd parts respectfully, their eyes following the golden bark. As it glides forward, steady, unhurried, the air shimmers with heat, yet the atmosphere remains cool with reverence. Step by step, the procession approaches the river. There, waiting upon the bank, another vessel rests upon the water. Its hull gleams, its deck prepared with cushions and offerings, its oars steady in the hands of waiting rowers. The golden bark is lowered with care, the pharaoh transferred, from the shoulders of men to the cradle of the river. The musicians gather upon the shore, their instruments releasing one final song as the vessel drifts away. The drums beat in slow rhythm, echoing across the water. The flutes release long, low notes, carrying across the breeze. The harps whisper, their strings trembling faintly in the afternoon sun. The dancers bow low, their movements stilled, their shadows stretching long across the sand. Upon the Nile, the pharaoh's vessel glides smoothly, the oars dipping in perfect unison. The water ripples outward, shimmering like bronze beneath the light. The reflection of the golden bark flickers upon the surface, a mirage of divinity mirrored in the eternal river. The crowd watches in silence as the vessel drifts downstream, its presence both powerful and tranquil. The pharaoh is carried not in haste but in majesty, his path as steady as the river, as timeless as the gods. Slowly, the vessel grows smaller, its golden gleams softening in the distance, until at last it is but a shimmer upon the water. The people rise, returning quietly to their homes, their fields, their workshops. The musicians pack away their instruments. The priests carry their offerings back to the temple. The dancers step away into the shade. The procession has ended, yet its calm remains, echoing in the heart like the fading notes of a song. And as you linger upon the riverbank, the stillness deepens once more. The Nile flows gently, endlessly, carrying the memory of the procession. Within its waters, the air is warm, yet restful. The world, for this moment, feels balanced, steady, whole. The sun lowers, and the day begins its slow farewell. The light softens, sliding from gold to amber, from amber to rose, until the desert horizon glows like embers fading in a great hearth. The heat of the afternoon releases its grip, replaced by a cooler breeze that drifts gently across the Nile and into the sands beyond. Shadows lengthen, voices grow softer. The world takes on a slower rhythm. Preparing for night, you find yourself walking once more, leaving the riverbank behind, moving toward the edge of the desert. The earth beneath your feet is firm but forgiving, packed with sand that gives slightly under each step. To your left, the Nile winds like a ribbon of silver, its surface reflecting the fading sky. To your right, the desert stretches vast and endless, its dunes glowing faintly, holding on to the last warmth of the sun. In the distance, a small caravan settles into camp. The low shapes of camels kneel in the sand, their bodies swaying slightly as they rest. Traders spread blankets upon the ground, untying bundles of goods carried from faraway lands. Jars of oil, sacks of grain, baskets of herbs, and bolts of linen are set carefully in order. Yet their work is unhurried, their gestures slow, their voices low. This is not a marketplace, but a resting place, a pause between journeys. The air carries the scent of smoke as fires are kindled. Thin threads of flame flicker to life, their light bright against the deepening blue of twilight. The smoke curls upward, drifting into the cooling sky, its fragrance a mixture of burning wood and spices. Around the fires, figures gather in circles, their outlines glowing faintly in the firelight, their shadows stretching long across the sand. One group prepares a simple meal, flatbread warmed upon a stone, lentils simmered in a small pot, dates passed hand to hand. The sound of their voices is soft, mingling with the crackle of the fire, forming a tapestry of quiet companionship. There is no rush, no noise, only the gentle harmony of people resting together beneath the wide sky. The camels sigh and shift, their movements slow, their presence steady. They kneel with folded legs, their long necks swaying as they chew. The sound is low, a rumbling murmur that blends with the night. Their eyes half close, their bodies settling into stillness, as patient and eternal as the desert itself. Above, the first stars appear, one, then another, then a scatter across the deepening sky. At first faint, then brighter, until the heavens bloom with light. The constellations take shape, Orion's belt, the curve of the Great Bear, the endless river of the Milky Way stretching. Across the night, the air cools further, crisp yet gentle, the kind of coolness that refreshes the body without chill. The stars seem close, so close it feels you could reach up and brush your fingers against their silver edges. A storyteller's voice rises from one of the fires. It is low, rhythmic, carrying across the sand with ease. His tale is not rushed, but unfolds like the night itself, slow, steady, inevitable. He speaks of the gods who ride in the sky, of Ra's daily journey across the heavens, of Nut, the goddess of the sky, arching overhead to cradle the stars. He tells of Set and Osiris, of order and chaos, of the eternal cycle that turns as surely as the river flows. His listeners sit quietly, their faces lit by firelight, their eyes following the constellations above, as though the stars themselves nod in agreement. The story fades into silence, replaced once more by the soft crackle of flames and the low murmur of voices. The fire burns steadily, its glow gentle, its warmth comforting. Around it, the desert stretches vast and quiet, a sea of sand bathed in silver light. The world seems both endless and close, vast yet intimate, as though the night itself has wrapped its arms around the camp. You settle near the edge of the camp. The sand cool beneath your hands, the air still. The sounds of the night deepen. The distant call of a night bird, the faint rustle of palm fronds along the riverbank, the low sigh of wind brushing across the dunes. Each sound is soft, unhurried, part of the great stillness of the desert. The fires dim slowly, their flames shrinking into glowing embers. The figures around them lie back upon mats and blankets, their voices fading into quiet, their breathing steady and slow. The camels rest in silence, their outlines dark against the sand, their shadows stretching into the starlight. Overhead, the stars shine brighter, filling the sky with their calm brilliance. The Milky Way arches above like a bridge of silver dust, a path for the souls of the departed, a promise of eternity written across the heavens. The constellations glow, ancient and unchanging, their stories known yet forever new. The night deepens, the embers flicker faintly, the air grows cooler, the silence settles thicker. And in this stillness, the world feels balanced. The river, flowing endlessly, the desert resting patiently, the stars watching silently. You breathe in the cool night air, slow and steady, and feel yourself part of the same eternal rhythm. Here, at the edge of the desert, night has unfolded in quiet majesty. The day has ended, but the peace continues, stretching forward into timeless rest. The night is deepened, and the desert lies still behind you. You walk once more toward the river, guided by the soft silver of the moonlight. Each step is quiet, each breath steady, the air cool and filled with the faint fragrance of lotus flowers, drifting from the water's edge. The world around you feels hushed, as though the very earth has settled into slumber. Ahead, the Nile stretches wide and calm, its surface smooth, mirroring the sky above. The stars shimmer in its reflection, 1,000 points of silver flickering upon the water. The moon rests low, its light spilling across the current, turning the river into a ribbon of liquid light winding through the darkness. Along the banks, villagers move quietly, their work of the day finished. Fires glow faintly within the courtyards of mud brick homes, their warmth soft and subdued. Families gather to share their last words before rest, voices low, laughter gentle, drifting across the still night air. The sound is not sharp or jarring, but soft, woven into the quiet harmony of the river. You pass a small group preparing their evening meal. Bread is broken into pieces, dipped into bowls of lentils. Dates are shared, their sweetness savoured slowly. A jug of beer is passed from hand to hand, its froth catching the faint glow of firelight. Their voices murmur softly, steady and calm, a lullaby of ordinary life at day's end. Further along the shore, fishermen mend their nets by lantern light. Their hands work steadily, tying knots with patience, preparing for the next dawn. The lanterns flicker, their light reflecting upon the water, creating little islands of gold in the silver current. The rhythm of their work is soothing, each not a promise, each motion a continuation of the endless cycle of river and life. Near the edge of the water, you see a woman kneeling, filling a clay jar with river water. She lifts it carefully, balancing it against her shoulder, and walks slowly back toward her home. Her figure is calm, her step steady, her presence blending seamlessly with the flow of the night. As you pause by the river, the sound of its current reaches your ears, a gentle whisper, a steady hush, like breath itself. It is not loud, not forceful, but patient and eternal. The Nile speaks in its own voice, carrying with it the stories of the land, the lives of its people, the prayers of its temples. It has flowed for countless generations, and it will flow for countless more. The night air cools further, dew gathers upon the reeds, glistening faintly in the moonlight. Frogs croak softly from the shallows, their calls slow and rhythmic. A heron stands still upon the bank, its tall form motionless, its reflection clear upon the water. The world holds its breath in balance, the desert resting, the river flowing, the sky watching silently. You find a place to sit upon the bank, the soil cool beneath you, the scent of the earth rich and grounding. You lean back, gazing upward. The stars stretch infinitely across the sky, their light both near and distant, ancient and immediate. You trace the familiar shapes of constellations, the same shapes the priests once studied, the same stars the pharaohs once gazed upon. Their light has not changed, their presence endures. As you breathe slowly, you feel the rhythm of the night settle around you. The villagers rest in their homes. The fires burn low, The camels sleep upon the sand. The fishermen finish their work and roll their nets. The storyteller's voice has faded into silence. Only the Nile remains, flowing steadily, carrying with it the memory of the day, the memory of generations. In this stillness, you sense the eternal, life and death, day and night, flood and drought, all cycles, all part of the same unbroken pattern. The Nile flows, the stars shine, and the people live within their rhythm. And now, you too rest within that rhythm, your breath soft, your body heavy, your mind calm. Slowly, the sounds of the world drift further away. The croak of frogs fades, the murmur of voices softens, the whisper of the river becomes distant, and lo, what remains is only stillness, only calm, only peace. The night holds you gently, like the arms of Nut arching over the sky. The earth supports you, steady and firm. The river flows beside you, eternal and quiet. And above, the stars keep watch, their light endless, their presence constant here. Upon the banks of the Nile, in the heart of ancient Egypt, the world rests, and so may you. Breathe slowly, rest deeply, drift as the river drifts into timeless sleep. Here, upon the banks of the Nile, in the heart of ancient Egypt, the world rests. The river flows on, as it has for thousands of years, carrying with it the memories of generations. The stars above shine as they did for the ancients, constant yet distant, guardians of the night. And perhaps, just as they wondered what lay beyond their world, we too gaze upward and wonder still. For in the end, the Nile continues its eternal journey, the stars continue their endless watch, and the rest of the story has yet to be written.